Before we begin today's episode, we'd like to pay humble tribute to L.J. Petrov of Entombed AD. I mean, the impact that he's had on death metal all across the world with both the albums Left Hand Path and, of course, later on with Wolverine Blues. I think till today you hear bands trying to replicate that sound. Your music will not be forgotten. Rest in power, L.J. Petrov.
Hey, welcome to Horns Up. I'm Animesh.
And I'm Peter.
And we have a friends of Horns Up joining us for this special episode. It's a voice long-time listeners may recognize. And Aditya Rao, Urf, Toila. Why are you here with us today?
Hey guys, thanks for having me over for this really special episode. And the reason that I'm over is because of who you're interviewing today. One of the extreme metal's old guards, one of the legendary vocalists, Karl Willetts, who's now in Memoriam, but also known for his extensive work in Bolt Thrower, and I'm a huge fan of all those bands. So yeah, this is like a really special occasion for me, and I can't thank you guys enough for having me over for this.
Okay, you know where to send the money, no?
Yeah,
Money and merch. Money and merch. We accept in kind.
Do you accept Google Pay payments?
Yeah, giving Google Pay a shout out. Sponsor us, bitches. Anyways, this one's a lengthy, comprehensive, no holds barred chat with the one and only Karl Willetts. So let's fucking go.
Okay, we are recording, so no swearing. Don't say fuck or bugger.
Right.
I'll try. Completely allowed.
My children have just left the room, so it's okay.
So I'd like to welcome to Horns Up the pioneering voice of death metal, as I would like to call him, Karl Willetts. Hi, Karl. How are you doing today?
Pioneering, eh? That's highly praised. Yeah, great. Nice to speak to you guys at Horns Up Metal. It's a privilege and a pleasure to speak to you this evening from my home here in Birmingham in the UK, where it is most pleasant. Spring is upon us and the creation and life is around us. So it's all good. It's all good. All good. And yes, I'm looking forward to speaking to you guys about Memoriam and our new album. Hurrah.
Yeah, we're totally kicked about it. I mean, when this opportunity came our way, I was like kicking myself or pinching myself that, hey, this may actually happen, right? But, just to go back to the start of Memoriam, right? I mean, the band started as a tribute to your friend, Martin Kitty Kearns, I mean, the drummer of Bolt Thrower. And the idea was just to play covers as I've read it. But, thinking back all these years, I mean, did you think that when you all started off that 5 years later, you all would still be making music and having released 4 albums?
Yeah, it's all gone terribly wrong. Yeah, we started off with very small aspirations, really. All we wanted to do was just have a bit of fun, really. Inject a bit of joy back into our lives, which we all go through a pretty, dark, painful time. Losing mine was a savage experience, which you kind of never get over, really. Just got to learn to live with it, and that kind of like that theme of death and sorrow and mourning is something that kind of like permeates throughout the first 3 albums in particular. Even more prevalent as of today as well, as of the news from yesterday with the loss of LG. That was, quite a, we knew he was ill, but, it was quite still a real shock to the world. And yeah, it reminds you, it puts you in touch with your humanity and reminds you of your mortality in many ways, doesn't it? And it makes you realize that you've got to, enjoy your life and just live it to the full, as LG did. He had a great, he's a massive character, good, great human being, lovely to be around, full of joy and goodwill and humor. Humor was his driving force. And I had the pleasure of meeting him several times, and he'd be sorely missed. But that is a theme which is recurrent throughout the topic of Memoriam, and it's kind of, that's how we started off from that beginning, just to try and inject a bit of light into an otherwise kind of dark place that we were in at that point. And the idea was just to kind of like have some fun, go to the rehearsal room with our mates, jam some old punk rock covers that influenced us to want to be in bands in the first place, maybe do some local shows in Birmingham, maybe release a 7-inch single. But kind of it all got a bit out of control, and I'll blame it on Scott. Scott ruined it all by coming up with all these songs that were originals. He kind of said, "Well, that's a great idea, but I've got these songs. Do you want to have a listen to these?" And if you could have a go at doing them if you want, And basically, it all kind of like avalanched from that point onwards. And 5 years on, and four albums later, here we are. So it's kind of grown and developed at an alarmingly fast pace. And we've enjoyed every moment of it. It's been great fun to do. So we've maintained the kind of ethos of why we started it in the first place, which is to have some fun and enjoy what we're doing. We're all very aware of our age, life, and we're trying to achieve as much as we can while we can, and enjoy as much of life while we're doing it while we can. So that's really the driving force behind Memoriam and what we're doing with the band. And we don't tend to dwell too much on the past. We pretty much like a band that likes to strive and move forward. That's why we've recorded 4 albums in 5 years. This last album being the starting point of a new journey for us, a new trilogy of albums which we've got planned. So there's life and a future for Memoriam going forward as well for the next 2 or 3 years planned. So it's exciting times, really exciting times for us, and we're having a great time doing it.
So let's get a little bit more into depth about the upcoming 4th album, right, To the End, which has also been described in press notes and in previous interviews as the joy of life brought through death metal.
Yes, indeed. That's a phrase.
It's a pretty philosophical description.
Yeah. It's a phrase that I often refer to. It is a joyful experience doing this.
Okay, so can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, we're very privileged to be doing this. I've been doing this for 30 odd years, as you well know. And if you'd asked me 30 years ago whether I'd be, when I was 21, if I'd still be doing this at the age of 54, I think I am, I'd have probably laughed at you and said there's absolutely no way, and here I am, doing it. So we are very honoured and privileged to be able to be doing this at this point in our lives. And that's all really down to our tenacity and our our will to proceed and carry on and just basically defying the odds and not wanting to give up and refusing to give up and retire, because there's nothing else that we really would want to do otherwise. Really, we just enjoy doing it, so why should we? But it's a testament to the fans and support that we received throughout the years as well. We are very aware that without that support and without that kind of like backing that we have off our fans, friends, followers, whatever you want to call yourselves, we really appreciate that. So we are full of gratitude for that. But a celebration of life through death metal is something that I think it's come with age. It's with age and experience. You tend to kind of look back and on your life, and a lot of you, such as yourselves, you've kind of grown up listening to the music we've created, so we all kind of feel we're kind of pretty interconnected in that kind of respect, and I think the people that listen to Memoriam have pretty much majority have grown with us and gone on that journey of life through us. So they've been through all their own individual ups and downs and had their own joys, their own sorrows, and we can all relate to these kind of experiences together. And I think this album now marks a turning point in many respects. The last 3 albums were born from that place of despair and sorrow and grief and mourning of the loss of Martin. But we explored those themes throughout the first 3 albums. The 5 years on, the pain's still there. It's something you learn to live with and you get on with, and it becomes part of who you are. But now we feel that we are in a point where we're a little bit more optimistic and hopeful for the future. I think maybe that could be a product of the experience what we've all gone through for the past 12 months, the whole experience of this global pandemic, which has swept the world and changed our lives, everyone's lives, in many, many ways. And, last March, the world ground to a halt and life as we once knew ceased to be. And we've all had to come to terms with that and deal with it in our own ways. It's been quite an isolated experience for a lot of us. We're just connected to our own immediate family. So we've lost kind of a lot of contact with our friends and people like that. So, so this is born from that experience of that kind of isolation and fear of everything around you. It's just what's going to happen. And so we're looking now, we're coming towards the end of that. I think we're now starting to that point where there is, vaccinations going on a global scale, and there is a reduction. Who knows if it may start again, but there is generally a feeling, an anticipation of things will change for the better, and things will return to a semblance of normality, whatever that may be. I think this new album has got a feeling of hope to it, a bit of a kind of like a looking to the future rather than reflecting in the past to a certain extent. That's also reflected in the artwork behind us. I think that's clearly defined in that, with the last 3 album covers, always followed, the central theme was always the coffin of the fallen leader, the fallen hero, whoever that may be to you. And for this album, this new start, this new beginning, this new trilogy that we put together, the central focus is this leader figure who's very much alive. He's not in the coffin. He's not being carried across a battlefield. He's not lying in state or being interred into the ground. He's very much alive. This is to the end. This is the final point of his life, basically. This is the big battle which he goes into, leading his troops, which penultimately leads to the first album, which is For the Fallen, which he dies in this battle. So this is the end point of his life, to the end, hence the title. And so this trilogy of albums we've got lined up, the idea behind it is to kind of experience life. So I kind of refer to the previous 3 albums as the death cycle trilogy. This is going to be the life cycle trilogy. So we're going to visit specific points within this central leader's life throughout his life in a reverse pattern. So it's kind of like a bit Star Wars. It's kind of, I've got a bit George Lucas on you. But you can see visually as well, it's a lot lighter than the previous album, because there's the orb there, the green orb, that kind of reflects and symbolizes life in many respects. And of course there's light in the background, which is kind of almost the kind of the light at the end of the tunnel that we're going towards, and ending towards reality, and a new reality, a new normality. So that's really in a nutshell where the themes and the joy of life comes through. We kind of are all, I think we're going to come out of this a lot better as people. I'd like to think so. Anyhow, I'd like to think that we're kind of going to be a bit more appreciative of the things that we've missed, and embrace and engage one another as individuals and collectively in a much stronger way, as a community. But who knows? One of the issues that I've thought about is the fact that because we're all so isolated, we've kind of gravitated in our own little insular ways to the little groups that we know that support our beliefs, our systems of belief. So we've become a little bit more. We all live in echo chambers, don't we, to a certain extent? So we don't really engage with anyone that doesn't think or believe or in the same way that we think. So it's going to be a bit of a shock to the system to come out of this and start engaging with people that are, even in a divided world, in a very polarized world that we live in, politically, socially, culturally, we are becoming a little bit more so, because we are totally dependent on social media for our only point of communication. So it's going to be interesting when we enter the real world, how those kind of like the discourse is going to kind of interact with one another. So interesting times that we live in. You know, it's unprecedented, isn't it? You know, so let's see where it takes us, eh?
I at least at this point echo your feeling of optimism and hope. But you know, you kind of talked us through the whole thing about to the end, right? I mean, it's the first album of the new trilogy, and you talk about it. But so I want to know, I mean, since it's talking about the life story of the leader or the king from the previous trilogy, are the next two albums for the trilogy already planned or written out? Because, you know, you mentioned, and I just want to add one more thing. You mentioned a sense of optimism fueling the band. Will this translate onto the next two albums from the trilogy?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're in a good place with the band. I mean, I think, you know, it takes a few years, whatever your background is. You know, I've been doing it for a long time, but whenever you start a band, it takes a while for you to formulate your own sense of identity and what you're trying to achieve with the band. Of course, we've got that added kind of like level of expectation on people, you know, expecting us to be like a certain band or not like a certain band. You know, and that, in a way, that's the kind of discourse, an argument that you can never win. You know, because people going to criticize you for sounding too much like X or sounding not enough like X. Yeah, so you can't ever win that battle. So we kind of like, we just basically kind of like concentrate on what we want to do, focus on what we do, and just do our own thing for ourselves. You know, if other people kind of like what we do, and that's just a bit of a bonus, really. So that's good. But yeah, so since we started, it's taken a bit of a while for us to gel, you know, and find our way. We've always wanted to try and test and do new things. We never wanted to just become, you know, a carbon copy of what we've done in the past. That would have been quite easy to do in many respects. You know, we could have just got a 5-piece band together and just churned out a load of you know, cover versions of the bands we've been in previously, and people would have loved it, you know. But that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to create something new, something different with its own sense of identity. And it takes a while for you to develop that, I think, regardless of whether you're starting from scratch or you've been doing it for 10, 20 years. So I think for the first couple of albums, we were kind of like exploring kind of the ways in which we wanted to go. We, you know, obviously some things worked, some things didn't work so well, but that's the nature of what we're trying to do, you know, and we're prepared to do that. We're prepared to like have experiment and try different things. And I think with the last album in particular, Requiem for Mankind, I think we found it. I think we found that we defined ourselves as a band. I think the missing piece of the jigsaw for us was Parlour Studios and the addition of Russell into the equation. He really has a deeper level of understanding as to what we were trying to achieve, and with his assistance, I think we definitely kind of found the blueprint of what we wanted to do. And we could have quite easily gone out and with the fourth album just replicated that and done another Requiem for Mankind, which would have been fine. But we wanted to keep on pushing and trying out these new ideas and testing out different things like we've done from the start, which we have done. You know, we totally have done with this album. And that's the key to the difference of this album. We built on the success and the confidence that we've got from doing this for such a long time, 4 or 5 years now. And we've created something which is a step up from the last album, because, you know, I think the key to this new album is the word diverse. It's very, very diverse, more so than any other album that we've done in the past. We've tried out different things, but this time round we've tried totally different things we've never done before. You know, for example, there's a song on there called Each Step One Closer to the Grave, which is a big epic doom metal song. Never done that before. Never done that in 30 years. Never had the opportunity to do a doom metal song before. I love that. I love Trouble, love Candlemass, love all that stuff, but never had the chance to do that. So it's brilliant to have the opportunity to do that, you know, after being in the music industry for 30 years, to try out new things. Of course, we've paid homage and deft reference to my favourite band on the planet, which is Killing Joke, with the song Mass Psychosis, which is a massive curveball, and it's really confused quite a lot of people, that one has. I didn't really expect that at all. And a lot of people have said, well, yeah, especially the Germans, well, what is this? This is not metal. And so that's been quite entertaining getting the response on that one. But yeah, a lot of people love it. A lot of people say that's their favourite track off the album. In particular, Shane from Napalm, he came down to the studio when we were recording and he had a listen to it, and that was his favourite tune off the album. Yeah, he's a big Killing Joke fan, so but as am I. So and then, you know, they've got the last track for me, that's my favourite track off the album, the As My Heart Grows Cold, which is a big melancholy epic tale of life and no forgiveness and the things that you've all been through in life, and we can all, that resonate with us all. You know, we can all relate to those experiences, and it's a great way to end the album. So yeah, there's lots of twists and turns on this album, which kind of takes the listener through a journey, if they can be bothered to listen to the whole thing, which is really annoying when people don't. You find that these days, you know, people just pick one or two songs off the album, they put it on their Spotify playlist and just pick one track or two tracks. That's what an album's about. It's about listening to the whole thing in its entirety. We've worked hard to make it as a story, and it's quite annoying when people do that. I think people's attention span has decreased over the past 20 years. But yeah, it's been a pleasure to do, you know, and it is a step forward. You know, one of the main elements of change with this new album, which enhances it, obviously our experience and, you know, that doing this and our confidence, but that's also added to there's many different layers there, you know, involved in this construction. I think one of the other main inputs, the main differences which made it what it is the fact we've had plenty of time to write it as well. You know, we had pretty much nothing else going on for last year, you know, so we had plenty of time to focus on this album and with no distractions. Usually we were off doing shows every other weekend or rehearsing for shows. So when it comes to doing an album, it's pretty much, you know, say about 6 to 8 weeks before you go into the studio, then you start to concentrate. But we were doing it for 6 months, you know, previously throughout the year. So I think the fact that we had plenty of time to prepare, it gave me a lot of time to work on the lyrics vocally and change them around to how I was happy with them. I've been into the studio, I went to the studio and did over at Scott's house, and we demoed the vocals, which is something I've never done before. You know, never had that opportunity to do so, you know, and so all these different elements have all added up to make the album what it is. I think one thing I failed to mention is the fact we've got a new drummer. You may have noticed, and again, he adds a different layer. You know, no disrespect to Whale, you know, Whale's my best mate, always will be, but Spike brings a different interpretation to the drum patterns and the drum songs, the drum tunes, and all these different factors make the album what it is, you know, and it is definitely a step up for us, and I'm really looking forward to the world getting to hear it and get the varied feedback that I'm anticipating.
Yeah, I must say, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the Doom track, because while I was listening to the album, I actually thought there was something wrong, and I went back and I was like, wait, is there something wrong with the MP3s? Is it not encoded properly? So yeah.
The album slowed down to 16 RPM.
Honestly, though, that one particular song, the song at the end, that one was my favorite track of the album. Yeah, I thought it ended it off on a perfect note.
Absolutely, it would take a better man than I. Absolutely, yeah, it's a great way to end the album, and you know, we're going to move forward with this creativity that we've created with this album. You know, we definitely are on a roll. We've got that newfound confidence. We've also got this. You know, Spike joined the band. You know, he only joined the band about 6 to 8 weeks before we went in to record the album. So he followed a lot of the drum patterns that we kind of worked out previously. So obviously the next album, he's going to have a lot more input into the creativity of it from a drum perspective as well, which I think is really going to work really well and enhance what we're doing with the band, again, pushing it to another level. So, you know, in particular, that last track, As My Heart Grows Cold, there's one particular drum solo kind of towards the end of it, which is incredible. He reminds me of Rush in many respects, and so he definitely brings something else to the music, and he's going to be more actively involved in the songwriting process. So yeah, I can really see us pushing forward with with his jazz infused drum style. Nice.
Lots of swing.
Nice. So we've talked a lot about To the End, but we're not Spotify, but we're heard on Spotify. So I'm afraid we'll have to ask you to pick one track to play on this podcast. Which one should we play and why?
So yeah, play Failure to Comply, which is one of my favorite punk rock classic songs. Which has a lot of meaning to me. Interestingly, you've probably seen the way what it's all about. It's about the whole Black Lives Matter movement in America and the murder of George Floyd, and the reaction and the song itself based on actual real events. I say the actual sample at the beginning of the song, which features on the video as well, which was taken by one of my friends. He got arrested in the process of doing it. So it's quite nice the fact that we've got a nice video from it, and she had to do 80 hours community service for the benefit of it. So we got something positive out of the bad. I'll put a good spin on it.
So here it is.
This is an unlawful assembly. You are commanded in the name of the state of Oregon to disperse immediately. If you do not immediately disperse, you will be arrested. Failure to comply with this lawful order may result in the use of impact and chemical munition against you.
Refuse,
Hey, Carl. First of all, it's an honor to just talk to you right now. So this question actually comes in from one of the listeners of the podcast called Dibangshu, who's a big fan of yours. And he just asked me that, a lot of your older work in Bolsover and even Memoriam sort of has an underlying theme of war and, as you said, despair and stuff like that. And, this is a theme that has not been explored too much in death metal, besides, say, some bands such as Aspects or Hail or Bullets. And you said in a previous interview that, I'm always going to write something, lyrics which have a war theme to them, right? So, what kind of sparked this interest, these lyrical themes that you've written for, majority of your career?
Yeah, I mean that's it. It's always a theme. War is always a kind of constant theme. Yeah, so I've been doing it for 30 years. I can write songs, lyrics about war in my sleep. I really can. And it was interesting, with this new album, in Memoriam, I tried to make some kind of balance there. There are three main strands to the lyrical themes that I write about. Obviously, that theme of war is a constant. It's going to be there. It's to a certain extent, it's expected from me. So it's something that I will deliver, because it's something that people expect me to do. And also it maintains a thread of continuity throughout what we do, so it kind of links into the previous albums, and obviously into my history of career as well. So that element is always going to be there. That theme of war is a consistent thing. I think maybe to a certain extent, the way that I've approached it now with Memoriam is slightly different than in the past. I think now, as I'm a bit older, a bit more confident in my ability and less caring about what other people think about what I say, that I write from a more of a first-person perspective, for a kind of insider kind of actually involved, rather than a third person outside of it. So historically, I maybe have written from outside of the event, but now I'm kind of trying to write more from inside that feeling, to capture the feelings and emotions from within. I think that really works really well. So that's theme number one, which kind of features throughout what I write. Theme number two is this political stance, which I'll always maintain now. It's something that I feel very strongly about. I think I've just quite well documented that I have a strong left-wing anti-fascist fear kind of like platform. I'm very concerned about the global rise of nationalism and xenophobia, which is a plague, a disease which is infecting our planet worse than COVID. We see it. We see it across pandemic. Absolutely, yeah. We see it in every nation, in every country across the world. It's something that exists and is growing. And so, I think it's important as a musician, as an artist, as a vocalist, to actually stand up and say something about it. I think if I was to ignore what's going on around us and bury my head in the sand, then I'd be doing myself and the world a big disservice and an injustice, because, if you kind of ignore it and turn your back, you become part of the problem, without trying to address the issues and try and force some kind of discourse or kind of at least kind of like put your flag in the sand and kind of like so people can rally around that and kind of like kind of attract like-minded people to get emboldened in strength and give them strength and something to link to. In the same way, it also pisses off a lot of people, which I'm quite prepared to do at this point in my life. Politics is always going to be a theme that's concurrent and throughout what I do now. I think in the past it was there, but it was a lot less overt than it is now. I think I was less willing to put myself in the pulpit or on the parapet or wherever you want to put me, on the soapbox. I'm much more prepared to kind of like stand up for my point of view and what I believe in now. So I'll do that. So politics is theme and topic number two, which will always will continue throughout what I do. And the third one, which is the third theme for me, which is the most important one, the one that I take most joy from, is the songs that I write such as My Heart Grows Cold. are the songs about life in general. You know, I think that I can only really write those songs now that I've reached this point in my life. You know, I'm 54-ish, I don't know. So yeah, I can write from that perspective of life experience, and you know, all the things I've been through, all the good times and the bad times. And those are the songs I take the most joy from writing. And I think those are the songs that got the most resonance and people can relate to. So there you go. Those are the three main themes that I tend to have my lyrical content about. And it's important for me to kind of have some balance on the album to make sure that all those themes are visited and none outweigh the other. So that's what I've attempted to do. And, you know, I could do that with this album. Sometimes when you're recording, you know, and you're doing an album, the vocals always come last. You know, the music's first, and then I always write the lyrics to the music. So often I'm in the studio when I'm doing them, or it's a week or so before we have to record them. So first, second, or third draft is what you get, you know, whatever they are. But this time around, I could work up to, you know, draft 8, 9, 10, you know, and change them around until I was entirely satisfied with them. And again, that's another contributing factor to why the album is so bloody good.
So, Karl, we were talking about your lyrical inspiration, and you know, you happen to also have a degree in cultural studies, right? So, you know, how does that help you with subjects when it comes to writing your material?
On my degree in cultural studies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. You know, I kind of like at school, I was never really focused on school when I was at school. I never really kind of like achieved, you know, I think I left with very little qualifications. I had one O level, I think, which was in European studies, ironically. Now we're in Brexit. So when I first started doing a bolt throw back in the day, you know, kind of when it was picking up, I kind of spent my time going to further education, you know, night school part-time, and doing all my A levels and getting the qualifications that we're required to go to university, you know, or just really kind of you know, getting myself a bit more educated, really, you know, and doing the subject that I kind of like enjoy, which is like, you know, things like sociology and psychology, those kind of like subjects. And you know, so I did all that in the early 80s. Where have you gone? You disappeared. Oh, there you are. There you go, you're back. Stop recording. Yeah, so I did all that, and kind of it was at a point really where the band kind of started to get a bit more, you know, busy and popular. You know, I did actually start doing a degree in sociology to become a qualified social worker, which I'm quite glad I didn't do in the end. But yeah, that came at a point in around about the early 90s when the band was starting to get quite popular and busy, you know, doing gigs and tours. So I kind of knocked that on the head. So it's always in my back of my mind that whenever, you know, kind of things kind of like had the opportunity to do so, I wanted to go to university and study something a bit more, you know, kind of like culturally based, you know, kind of living in Birmingham, you know, we've got culture all around us. You know, it's what for me, it's what living in a culturally diverse place is what makes life interesting. You know, if we were all very homogenous and all looked the same and all did the same things, then I think life would be incredibly dull. And so it's all this kind of like this difference is really important to me. I think that's what makes, you know, humanity an interesting and exciting, vibrant life form, is the kind of acceptance of difference and you know, kind of like embracing difference, you know, and taking the parts of different cultures that you like and helps to make your own identity through that. So that's really what I did when I left Bolt Throw in 1994, something like that, 5. I went to Birmingham University for 3 years and did a degree in cultural studies, which was kind of modern social theory and contemporary social theory. So we studied all the old traditional types of discourse regarding, you know, kind of like socialism, capitalism, all those kind of different kind of discourses around that. But for me, it was all the contemporary social theory, which was all about deconstruction, critical theory, all those kind of things that were kind of really interesting. And in a way, kind of made sense of where my mindset was at and what the lyrics I was writing to privy. It kind of always put like a a kind of like a concept around what I was trying to write about previously. Yeah, and it was really helpful for me to kind of like formulate my mindset really, and develop my ideology of life. It was there previously, but I think going and doing that course helped me formalize these ideas in a much more kind of conceptualized idea. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the world around us. I did various different modules within that, such as Russian cultural studies, African cultural studies, and all these different kind of modules that made it what it was. Theories of race and gender and ethnicity, all kind of added up to me kind of leaving there with a degree, a 2-1 degree, and a massive debt, which is brilliant. And really, there's not a lot of work out there for deconstructive kind of critical theory thinkers, unless I wanted to kind of immerse myself in further education and go down that kind of like track. There was very little kind of like to do with that degree. It has opened a lot of doors for me. It shows that you can study and kind of concentrate and learn topics. It's helped me, socially and mentally in my life. It's very good in that respect. It's given me a huge debt, which I've never really kind of recovered from. But luckily, I've got to that age where it's written off now. Hurrah!
You would have been an excellent professor, Karl.
Yeah, it was great, but ironically, learning to deconstruct social theory and kind of like question all forms of education and authority, it did kind of lead you to the point of thinking that, well, a lot of education is a lot of self-justifying bullshit. And it created a whole kind of like genre. I mean, the actual where I went, the Centre for Contemporary Cultural Studies was very big in the 60s when there's all the student riots throughout Europe, in Paris, in England as well. So it's very, very at the forefront of left-wing ideology. So much so that when I left the course, the year later, they shut it down. They shut the course down because really it didn't create anyone that kind of had any real social use apart from critical thinking and tearing ideology down, really. But as a lyric writer, it's provided a very useful basis for me to formalise my ideas around, and it helps very much. For me to kind of write, and I use it quite often in my writing technique. You may not kind of overtly see that, but it's there. It's a mindset that I've got, which I found very, very useful. I met some great people as well. I met some great people, which I'm still in contact with a lot of those as well. So all in all, it was a very, very good experience, and set me up okay for the rest of my life, really. So I'm very thankful for my time at Birmingham University. It was a great period of life for me.
Yeah. And staying on the topic of like culture, you are like one of extreme metal's like true old guards, right? So tell us, in your point of view, how has metal, the subculture, changed, especially with the advent of like internet streaming?
It's very, very different now, isn't it? From when it was when I first started out. Back in the 80s. It was all about tape trading, and you kind of like spend an hour writing a letter by hand and posting it off to some far exotic country that you've never heard of on the other side of the planet, and sending your demo tape off to them or to some kind of random kind of underground magazine. Not hearing anything back for maybe a month or two, because that's how the postal system worked back then. In the meantime, you'd receive all these random underground demo tapes from these kind of bands from all over the world, such as Peru, Scandinavia, all over the world, and it was great. It was a really life affirming, rich time, really, where I think it just felt that you had to put that little bit more effort into doing it and be a bit more patient for things to happen. And it did. And because of that, because you invested so much time into doing it, it meant a little. It was really special. I'm not saying that things are not special now, but it's very, very different. We live in a time where everything's very instant. Everyone wants gratification straight away, or a feedback straight away. You can, the press of a button kind of responds to something, and it means that the opportunities for people are a lot wider, a lot easier to access, kind of a global platform for your material. But in the same respect, it's the same for everyone else, isn't it? So rather, when we were doing it, there were maybe 100 or 200 or maybe 1,000 people as it grew, bands, early days. Now there's tens of thousands of people doing it. Everyone can bloody well be in a band, and it's really hard in that respect to kind of get to recognition. It takes time. I think people they expect to get recognition straight away as well. They don't expect to have to do some kind of hard work and some apprenticeship. I think we did that. We built up a network of following. We played loads of local shows, then we played a bit further afield, then we played in Europe, and then we played further. It takes time to develop that. I think people's attention span and people expectations are a lot more immediate now. People want things to happen straight away, and they haven't got the patience to make things work, and not prepared to put the hard work in. But generally speaking, quality will always rise. The quality is always there. If you've got something genuine and you enjoy what you're doing, you believe what you're doing, and you keep at it and you work at it hard, you will, rise, and people will start to notice what you're doing. But it's not going to happen overnight. It never happens overnight. It's something that you have to work hard at, and that's the main difference really between now and then. But I think what's kept the whole internet thing has kept the scene alive very much so. It's a thing where it's developed over the years, over the generations. I remember quite strongly in the mid-90s where we kind of reached that peak, our zenith of what we were doing. I was pretty much disillusioned and left to go to university, as I mentioned. But it was all around that time there was a bit of implosion in the death metal scene, and there was a whole new wave of music that came through, which was first of all there was grunge, which kind of knocked the whole scene to a little bit. But as a reaction to that, there was kind of a scene called black metal, which came out of nowhere, really. Well, came out from Scandinavia mainly, but yeah, and I could never really understand that. All this makeup and guitar. I just never really. I never understood it. Never liked it. Still don't like it. But as years go by, and I get to this point in my life, I kind of look back and reflect upon it, and I kind of understand it now to a certain extent, because it's all reactionary. It's something that's got to happen. Each generation comes along. As I formulated my own sense of identity from the grind crust punk scene in the UK, and we went on to do bolt throw and do that and develop this whole old school death metal scene, whatever it was. That's what happens. You formulate your own sense of identity through the things that have meaning to you. So each generation has to come along and do something that means something to them, which is usually in opposition to what's gone on before, and that's the natural order of things. It's got to be like that. Black metal, I don't like it, but that's irrelevant. It's not really for me. It's not supposed to be for me. I'm not supposed to like it. It's for a different generation. It's what they believe in. It's what they get their sense of identity through. And that really kind of happens throughout the decades. Genres come along, subgenres develop, different things happen, kind of you got metalcore, whatever you call it, and that's great. I think that's, in the big picture, that's what keeps the scene so vibrant and so alive, is the fact there's so much diversity within it, and so many different types of styles or sounds, and people can relate to that builds it to what it is. And I think without that, we probably wouldn't be able to be doing what we're doing today. It's kind of kept it going. And the old school death metal scene is very much alive today. There's lots of new bands doing, inspired by what we've done in the past, creating some great new music and interpreting it in their own way. But also it's given the opportunity for all the people that were doing it in the first place to keep on doing it as well. There's so many great bands, Asphyx and Cancer and Carcass and Napalm. We're all still doing it and still enjoying it. And I think without that kind of evolution of the scene, that wouldn't be able to happen. So I think that comes with age. You start to appreciate and understand what's the different genres. May not like them, may not understand them, but that's not the point. They're there for a reason. I'll never like baby metal though. I'll never accept that. I'm sorry. Pop metal will never do for me. They may be pretty, but that's not the point.
All right. So since you talked about like recent bands, right? I mean, and metal culture. I've actually seen a picture of you from a live gig wearing a T-shirt of a band from here in India called War Marshal.
Marshal, yeah, great band.
How did you come across them, and have you heard any other Indian metal bands?
No, I do know there's quite a vibrant scene in India, as there is across the whole of the Asian Indian kind of continent. Humiliation as well from Malaysia. They're kind of a band that I'm in contact with quite regularly. And War Marshal are probably the only band that I know of from India, and my liking for them is really down to their constant harassment of me on a regular basis. And sending me T-shirts and CDs in the post. Really, that's where it comes from. But yeah, they're great bands, lovely bunch of lads, and they're doing some great stuff, and they're flying the flag really, really proudly for the Indian metal scene as well. So so it's great to see that it's a global thing, isn't it? And it's almost going back to that kind of like full circle back to the tape trading days to kind of feel that kind of global connection. And that's what the internet can do. We can talk like this now, and it improves that connection, that connectivity throughout the world, and that's a great thing. For me, it's always been exciting and different and great and affirming to know that the music that I'm involved with and help create, touches a chord with people, such as yourselves, or in all these different far-flung countries of the world. It still amazes me kind of when I get merchandise orders from a place like Greenland, or kind of like this barren waste with just ice, and there's it still amazes me. I'm still very thankful for that, and it's great to speak to you guys tonight.
So Karl, you had mentioned earlier in one of the interviews I had read long time back that you kind of enjoy touring at a very leisurely pace. You don't want to do like these constant 8 weeks or 10 weeks tour and stuff like that. But now, considering the pandemic and that bands have not toured for so long and are itching to play live, has your stance on that changed?
No. No, I'm way too old to go to kind of contemplate getting on a tour bus and going on a smelly tour bus for 6 to 8 weeks on an extended tour across one specific territory. I've got too many responsibilities outside of the band, to do that as well. I've got 2 young kids, got a full-time job. I've got a mom that's got dementia. So, we do this on our own terms, and we enjoy it that way. It does preclude our ability to go to certain specific places. So, with no disrespect, I doubt very much that we'll ever get to play India. I doubt if we'll get to play South America. There are territories which are probably beyond our means of doing it, because it would take too long to get there, and the financial reward for doing it probably wouldn't be enough for us to do it. So that's the harsh reality of the economics of doing this. We're kind of pretty much going to do it on our own terms and do the odd shows here and there. But one thing I think that's come through this from this this pandemic thing is the fact that because the whole nature of the world's changed and people are starting to do this live streaming thing, which is something we've been approached to do in the past, and we've always kind of thought, well, we're not going to do that. It's a bit rubbish. The whole gig thing, the whole experience is being there. It's about the whole visceral experience of doing it. It's about the touch, the taste, the smell, the whole thing. And you just don't get that from a 2D interaction. However, the world has changed. and I think it's definitely something that we will need to contemplate doing, because it does open up the opportunity for a whole wider range of people that otherwise couldn't see you play a live gig come and see you. For example, if we were to play in France, for example, we play in Paris, and there'd be a few hundred people from Paris come to see us. But Paris is a massive country. There's loads of people in the rural parts of the country that couldn't make it. It does just open up the whole idea of inclusivity as well. There's lots of people that otherwise couldn't come to a show, be that because they've got some kind of physical disability, or they've got some like mental incapacity, or the geographical distance where they live. So I think live streaming is going to change the actual kind of like the future of gigs. I think it's going to be incorporated within the kind of mindset of bands moving forward. And Asphyx are a great example of a show that really worked well. That was a few weeks ago. That live stream was great, and I think that kind of like set a bit of a precedence for that. So it's definitely something we're going to contemplate moving forward. We've got to really wait until we get out of this COVID situation completely, because we still are socially distancing as a band, so we can't really get together to rehearse to do a live stream. But as soon as it kind of like starts to relax, which we're anticipating around June time, we're going to start getting together for rehearsals. And then I'd seriously contemplate us doing some kind of live streaming event, which means the world will get to see us perform our new album, which will be good.
Excellent.
I think you just have to embrace change, don't you, really? And kind of like roll with what's happening around you. If you don't embrace the change, then you get stuck. And as human beings, we have to. So life is all about moving and changing and adapting to the world around us. So it's exciting and times. So we have to adapt to it.
Awesome. Lovely. And just because it's you and the fact that you enjoy talking politics, and I'm sure you'd have a view on it, I had to ask, because the whole world is talking about it, what's your take on all that we are hearing about the royal family?
Oh, God, thanks a lot.
Come on.
Yeah, well, it's all a bit of a it's all a bit old school, isn't it, really? There's so many different kind of like different aspects to the royal family. One, it's a bit of an outdated, outmoded kind of like system of rule, which kind of like, but but it's got the heritage value there, isn't there? There is the fact that people around the world look to the royal family, and it does generate a lot of income for tourism and things like that, and it's something to be proud of. It's our historical heritage, but it is about a bit. It does need a bit of a kick up the arse, doesn't it? And I think that is it Meghan Markle, whatever her name is. I think she's injected a bit of a challenge to the hierarchical structure that's existing. So I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to shake the boat up a little bit sometimes, and kind of like force a bit of change and challenge the existing status quo that's in place. It's quite funny, really, isn't it? Really, but they are such old set in their ways. But that's the way it is, isn't it? That's the way it is. They do cost a lot of money as well. So it costs a lot of money to keep them in place. But it's a strange one. I've got no real opinion on the monarchy. I wouldn't say that I'm a pro monarchist or an anti monarchist. Really, it's just they just exist, don't they? They're just there, like a bit of a parasite.
All right. So let's wind this down a bit and bring it back to death metal and Memoriam. I mean, what's next for Memoriam? I mean, when can we expect the next two albums from this trilogy?
Yes. So the future is bright. We are currently in the process of writing new material already. So we're yet to release this new album. It's coming out on the 26th of March, but we are hot on the heels of kind of getting together the next album. I think we're going to kind of, because we've learned that we quite like that rather than releasing an album every year. I think we quite like that kind of gap of 18 months. That kind of works. That's worked for us quite well. this time around. So I think we're going to maintain that. So I wouldn't expect another album next year, but maybe early, maybe around about March the following year. We'll probably kind of follow this schedule where we probably go into the studio October. I don't know. We're going to see how it goes, but we'll probably leave it because there's a lot of things to do. Really, kind of we've had a big gap of having nothing to do, so we've got a big load of things to do in that time. So I would anticipate that we probably go back into the studio October next year, and then release the album the following year. So let's see how it goes. We've got the ideas there. We've got 6 or 7 songs on the go, which Scott's written already, which I've heard, which are good. And will be interesting to see how Spike adds his excellent drum fills to it as well. So it's definitely, there's a good 2 or 3 years left in us to do the trilogy. But also, the original concept when we got together in the first place was to do the bloody album of covers, or some cover versions of punk rock classics which inspired us to be in bands in the first place. So, all these bands like Antisex, Amoebics, Axe Grinder, Sacrilege, all these bands that we want, that we intended to kind of do cover versions of when we first started out. We still haven't done it. So that is still there in the back burner. So that's another thing that I'll definitely, it's on the bucket list of things I want to achieve before I shuffle off this mortal coil. I can see there a lot of things good happening for at least 2 or 3 more years. I can't see us doing this when I'm 70, to be perfectly honest. I don't really want to be, we could be the Rolling Stones of death metal. I don't know. but there is a limited lifespan to what we're doing. We're not going to be doing this indefinitely forever. So, we're going to be doing it until we can physically, we're going to carry on doing it until we can't do it anymore physically, basically. So expect a lot from us over the next 3 or 4 years. We're going to keep on keeping on enjoying what we're doing and celebrating our lives through the joy of death metal.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
And coming to that, finally, Karl, here's our last question. So after 35 plus years, what does death metal mean to you?
Well, it's everything, really, isn't it? It's all we know and all we love and all we can do, really. And we refuse to give up. We refuse to back down. What else will we do?
We will never surrender.
Absolutely. That's the thing. We're never going to get rich from doing it, but that's really, it's not, that's not, and that was never in the equation to start off with. It's just something we enjoy doing, something we've always enjoyed doing, and something we want to continue doing for as long as we can. And long may that continue.
Horns up to that.
Horns up to that. Yes, horns up to that.
Yeah.
On that note, Karl, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sparing so much of your time, very graciously.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did talking to you.
Absolutely, it makes a real change as well for me as well to speak to guys from India as well. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you guys. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for your support. And I wish you all the best for the future. Enjoy your time in Goa when you go there as well. Have a drink for me if you do drink.
Sure,
thanks very much for your support. And maybe our paths will cross at some point in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, hope so.
Good evening. Take care.
For those of you wondering why Karl mentioned Goa at the end, well, that's because Peter's going to be partying on the beaches. Partying on the beaches, partying with the bitches, what?
I'm just going to be sipping on Fanny and sitting under the sun in the beach. That's it. No partying, nothing at all.
Aditya, what metal should he be listening to in Goa?
Considering where he's going right now, probably like pirate metal, because he's just going near the seaside right now, right? So something like a Running Wild would serve him the best right now, I feel.
I was thinking summer black metal.
yeah, but I think because you're like drinking Penny and stuff like that, and since pirates have this whole thing with drinking rum, so you have the localized version of it in Goa. So
Done.
yeah, I think you could go for that.
What metal should Peter be listening to on his Goa trip? Reach out to us and tell us. As always, we are at honsapod.com, or you can holler at us on Twitter. We are at honsapod. I'm at Asmoani.
Yeah, send all those drink recommendations to @trendcrusher. You can find me on Instagram also. You can slide in my DMs on there.
Ooh, Aditya, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook with my name, that's Aditya Rao, on Instagram as well as Aditya Rao, and on Twitter as Aditya S. Rao.
Wow, I don't do Instagram, bitches. Anyway, this was Horns Up.
Horns up, guys.
Horns up, horns up.